Hello, everybody, and happy Taco Tuesday. If you don't know this about me, Tuesday is my favorite day of the week. Not only that, but I have a brand new shirt. So let me see if you can see it. Okay, so no, wrong way. Bears beats Battlestar Galactica. I posted that I just got this shirt yesterday and I was really excited because if you know this about me, I'm a huge fan of The Office and it was really exciting. So I am super, super pumped to be here with you today and chat about all things making money with your podcast. Because if you've been around here for a while, then you know that is what I do. I teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. And I let everybody know last week that in August of 2020, we are going to be talking about ways that you can make money with your podcast. So I'm really excited about this. I hope that you are too, because it is there is a myth going on in the world that says you have to have millions of downloads and thousands of listeners before you can ever monetize your podcast. And I do not agree with that whatsoever. I don't think that you have to wait until you've been podcasting for years or you have this huge following, this giant audience before you can monetize your show. So we're going to get into some ways that you can actually make money with your podcast and how I use my podcast to sell my own products. So we're going to get into that, but I see some people are joining us. Hi, Nanette. Nanette's joining us on YouTube. This is so fun, you guys. I love this software. Hello, Linda. I love seeing y'all here live. This is super cool. So if you are watching this on the replay, I'm so happy that you are able to watch this. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you put them wherever you're watching this because we're going to kind of go fast and furious because there's a lot to cover today. There's a lot to cover this whole month, but I'm just excited to get going. Like I'm super pumped because making money with my podcast was really a game changer for me, right? It just motivated me even more so to show up every single week for my audience. Now, I teach entrepreneurs. I don't teach hobby podcasters, and I don't teach people that want to chase downloads and are just looking for sponsors. I mostly talk to people who already have a business and they want to add a podcast as their marketing arm, like part of their marketing strategy. Or I talk to people who don't have a business, but they know that creating something online is something that they would love to do one day. So those, like in my audience, you either fall into one or two of those categories, or maybe you fall into both and you're just trying to figure it out. That is okay too. But for the most part, everyone that hangs out with me on a regular basis is trying to make money with their podcast sooner rather than later. So hi, Kay, I see you. She's hanging out with us on YouTube. This is so cool that we can stream in so many different places and do so many different things here. I love technology. It's so much fun, but let me go back. Let me back up real fast and tell you that I am not the most tech savvy person out there. So don't think that, well, Crystal has lots of fancy equipment and she's streaming and doing all these things. So she must be super fancy with technology and she knows so much more about podcasting. I can't do what she's doing. So this is making me a little nervous. No, guys, I literally looked up how to do all the things that I'm doing right now, and I can show you what I'm doing when it comes to this live broadcast. But when it comes to podcasting, I want you to keep it simple. I don't do anything super fancy. I actually record, I have a daily podcast, which I have been doing on IG Live from time to time. I don't always do it. I should probably have like a scheduled time of when it's going to happen, but I honestly haven't been doing it because I've been recording it directly on my phone. Did you know that? Did you know that you can record your podcast directly on your phone and upload it and the whole thing is done directly from your phone? So when it comes to technology, I keep it simple and I want you to do the same thing because I think that complicated just makes things more complicated, right? It gives you the ability to feel overwhelmed, and overwhelm leads to burnout, which leads to you not podcasting 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. And I don't want that to happen to you. I want to see you creating a podcast that you love, your audience loves, and you're making some money doing it as well. So Linda says, show us how to monetize. A podcast topic is about educating others on a specific dementia disease, just enough to cover expenses and not make money. Okay. So Linda has a great point. She is talking about this, like, my show is about dementia disease. She's saying, I don't want to necessarily build a whole business around my podcast, but I want to make money just enough to cover my expenses. Well, that's a perfectly valid explanation for wanting to monetize your show, which you can do in multiple ways. So the first way that I want to talk about is, and actually I have a podcast episode. It's 5 ways to make money podcasting that I want you to go check out. If you have not listened to that episode, go check it out. The Profit Podcast, 5 ways to make money podcasting. But the one that I want to talk about today is ways that I sell my digital products within my podcast. And there's a term that I use called self-sponsored ads, or you could call them calls to action, or however you want to call them. It's basically all the same thing, but it's you doing self-promotional segments within your podcast that promote your own products. Now, what do I mean by products, right? Is that a physical product? Is that a digital product? Like, what am I actually talking about? So in my business, I have a digital course, I have a membership, and I have workshops that I've done from time to time. I don't do workshops as often. I think maybe in the future I could see doing those on a more regular basis. But because I have so much content that's absolutely free through podcast episodes and YouTube videos, workshops almost feel a little redundant, because if you listen to the podcast and you watch everything on YouTube, you probably know most of the things that I talk about anyway. But what I do on my podcast is I will talk about these products. I will say, hey, have you checked out my digital course, Profit Podcasting? Or if you want to learn more about my membership, The Potty People, then you should go check out this. And I would give them a URL. Say, hey, this is what the information is, or what the thing is, right? This is who it's for. And this is where you can go find more information about this. If you already have a digital product, I'm going to encourage you to do this as well. Yeah, it could probably work the same for a physical product. If you're selling, like, let's say something that requires packaging and shipping, but you already have a URL, like an e-commerce site set up to do that, then tell people what your product is, tell them who it's for and why they should purchase it, and then tell them where they can go find it. A little tip that I have for you is always make the URL as simple as possible for someone to go to it. So you don't want to have a super complicated long URL where you have to, like, first of all, it's ugly. I don't like ugly URLs. It really bothers me. You could use a program like bit.ly, bit.ly. Go there, check that out. It's free, and you can upload like a product link if you wanted to bit.ly, make it all pretty, make it short, sweet, whatever you want it to say. And you could have that as your go-to URL that you mentioned in your podcast. You could also plug this URL into your show notes. And this would give you the ability to promote, right, on your podcast, within your podcast, without feeling like you are taking advantage of your audience or you're always selling to them. Because I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to feel like you are badgering, your audience with your products and everything that you talk about. So here are a few ways that you can kind of get around that and reframe your thinking to where you feel confident and you don't even think twice about promoting to your audience. So the first thing I want you to think about is mentioning customer, business, student, client, and other words that give people the sense that this is what you do, that you have a business related to what your podcast is about. And I want you to get used to saying these words throughout your show, because it's almost like this cue for people to listen in, and they're like, oh, they're not just talking about this. They do this on a regular basis. Like, for example, I could say, oh, one of my members of the Potty People, right? I said members, so you know it's probably a membership. I said the name of it, so you now know the name of my membership group. But one of them, Carla, has this fantastic podcast for energetic moms that want to have a healthy lifestyle, and you should totally go check it out. She's one of my students. Okay, I haven't sold anything. I haven't told you I've told you what it is, but I haven't told you where to find it. I haven't told you this is how much it costs. I haven't said anything salesy in this call to action or self-sponsored ad. It's not even a formal ad for any of my stuff. It's just me mentioning, hey, by the way, I have this membership. This client or student or member of mine has had some success with her podcast. You should totally go check it out. That's actually me giving her a plug, right? It's me telling you about her show and the cool things that she's been able to achieve with her podcast. So this is like step number 2. This gives you credibility immediately with your audience and the people that are listening to your podcast, your potential clients. Because if you have a show where you are thinking about your audience as your ideal customers, then I want you to talk to them this way. I want you to make them excited about your current customers, students, clients' success, because then they would sit there and imagine, I wonder if she could get me those same results. Or I wonder if she's the person that I need to work with. Or I wonder if she has a product that would work for my specific problem and help me find a solution to it a lot faster than me doing this on my own. I know this is how I look at other podcasts that I listen to. I mean, I look at some and I'll listen to them. There's a marketing podcast that I really love to listen to, and I'll hear them say something. And then when an upcoming promotion comes up, I get just as excited for them because I feel invested in the process because they've talked about it for months on end. And I want to see them succeed, even if I'm not even a client of theirs or a student of theirs. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm getting the behind the scenes on what's going on in their business because they share about it regularly and they tell the podcast community what's going on and what their goals are and what their ambitions are with their products. So they have the ability like to give you this behind the scenes and let you know what's going on in their business without telling you, oh, this is the exact revenue that we're making. This is how many customers we signed up or this or that. Like you are just giving people a sneak peek into what it's like to work with you, how your business actually operates. And if this is something you do on a regular basis, if you do client work or consulting, then you should be telling people this anyway, because you want them to feel at ease whenever they do make that decision to work with you one-on-one. You want them to already feel like they know who you are, or they have a sense of, oh my gosh, they would be the perfect coach for me. I love their personality. Like we see eye to eye on certain things. We have the same principles and values. I know these are the things that I look for in a coach. I have several coaches that I followed for a very long time before I ever spent $1 with them because I wanted to make sure that they were the right fit for me. I wanted to make sure that, again, our values aligned, our principles aligned, and they were focused on the same things that I was. A great example is budgeting. Like I don't want to follow somebody who is like out to just get rich quick and they are spending thousands of dollars in hopes of making a small return, but they just want to pad their books and make it look like they're making all this money, but really all these expenses are flying out the door. It's like, no. That's not for me. But like my values don't align with that. I'm more of a saver than a spender. If you've ever been part of Dave Ramsey's programs, he always talks about that. Like you're either a spender or a saver. I'm a saver. So I like to follow other people who spend their money responsibly. So Linda had another question. She says, how to monetize just enough to cover expenses about a specific dementia as a way to educate others, not to make a living from the monetization. So again, Linda is looking for just a way to make some money just to cover her expenses. Linda, I would recommend you look into affiliate marketing and find products, programs, services that align with what you're teaching or what you're talking about on your podcast, so that everything is aligned with your audience, your podcast topic, and what you genuinely like to talk about. And then from there, you should be able to find some companies or some programs that would allow you to make enough money to cover your expenses. But hopefully your expenses aren't super high for your podcast. I would love to see you keep those pretty low. I would say within the first year, you shouldn't have anything above your podcast hosting, maybe a website. You don't even have to have a website. And then an email service provider, which you can get one of those for free until you reach up to 1,000 email subscribers. So I would rather see you keep your costs very, very low in the first 6 months to a year of your show. And then you can look at exploring other kind of programs. If that's something that you're just like, I'm not looking to monetize and make a ton of money with my podcast, then that is the route I would recommend you go. So what is a typical membership fee? Okay, this is a good question. So when it comes to a membership for a podcast, there is a few different ways that you can approach this. So a membership could be a listener-sponsored membership site, which is like Patreon. There's another one called Glow. And what those memberships do is you pay a monthly fee anywhere from $5 to $50. It just depends on how you get it set up. And then these programs, these companies, you can create custom content and deliver it to your audience in like its own secret private channel. So no one has access to this content unless they pay for it on a monthly basis. So that is actually a great way to start to get your expenses covered. But I recommend you doing this if you have something of value to deliver above and beyond what your regular show is. So if you're talking to dementia patients, I know you said a specific type of dementia. So maybe they're looking for resources, and you could talk on your main podcast about the stories or different ways that you could help a loved one dealing with this prognosis. But maybe on your paid membership, you could talk even more to like specific interviews that you have with clinical trials or with doctors or something else that goes above and beyond just what your regular content is. And again, that would be a paid fee for a listener sponsored membership. Now, the other type of membership, which is what I have for the potty people, is I'm also delivering custom content, but it's in the form of, we have our own Facebook group. We've done PDFs. I have tons of resources and tutorials and training videos. I do live videos in there all the time. We have our own community. Like, it goes above and beyond just a $5 a month subscription fee, because I'm creating more content for members of that community. They also see a behind the scenes of one of my podcasts. I show them everything from my entire Buzzsprout account to all of my statistics, my listener stats, everything I show to them, and I show it to them first because I give them preference, because they're my members. They are paying me on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis to learn from me in this aspect. So it's almost like group coaching, which is what that kind of membership is. So I just wanted to explain the difference between what a listener sponsored, so this is just people in your audience sending you $5 a month. That could be an option if you're just looking to cover expenses, but I want you to approach it very gently and it not sound like you're begging for money. That's the only issue that I have with certain ways that podcasters go about asking for donations or support our show. because I think that you do have to talk about it very delicately and not in a way that's just like, hey, we need your money. I need you to send me money because I can't afford my expenses. Right. And I know that's probably such a silly example, but I feel like it needed to be said because there are podcasts that I've heard say it in a very kind of crass way that's just like, we need your money to keep this show going. I need your money. I need you to send me some money. And I feel like this is a ransom note, when they're like begging for all this money. So anyway, that's my own little personal rant about it. But oh, what about Podcorn or sponsors? Nanette asks. So whenever it comes to Podcorn, this is something, if you are a Buzzsprout user, they have actually made it a lot easier for you to partner with other brands and companies through sponsors. So if you go into your Buzzsprout account, for other podcast hosts, I don't know how this works. I know how it works for my Buzzsprout peeps, but you go into your podcast account in Buzzsprout, then you click on monetization and you go to the sponsors sub tab, and it will say on there, like, get hooked up on Podcorn. And this is something it's a newer organization, a newer company that's only been around for, I don't know if it's been a few years, but I recently learned about them in the last 12 months. And I'm continuously learning about how they work really well with podcasts. But basically what they have done is they have sourced a lot of sponsors who are looking to promote on podcast. They know that this is what they want to do. They want to use their advertising dollars to find an audience that would work really well for their product or their service or whatever their business is. So what Podcorn and Buzzsprout have done is they've created a platform that makes it easy for you to get to the Podcorn portal. Can't say that, Podcorn portal. So you go in there and you will have lists of all kinds of businesses. And then you submit a proposal and say, hey, this is my show. This is my audience. This is who I speak to. They're still going to want to know what your download numbers are, how many listeners you have, and kind of some demographics about who your audience actually is. That way they can see if y'all are going to be a good fit together. So that's a great question about Podcorn. If you want to find more information, I highly recommend checking them out within your Buzzsprout portal because you'll be able to see it a lot clearer. But that's a great question, and I will be making a YouTube about that soon. So thank you for that idea, Nanette. Very helpful. Linda says, thanks, great ideas. Well, I'm so glad you found that helpful. And then Linda says, give us an example of how to delicately ask, specifically wording for memberships, so not to seem like begging. A lot of help so far. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad that you found this helpful. So, and that was just one of my little personal rants. So just disregard that about the begging. I've heard it, and maybe it's just like a one experience, like one off, like it probably doesn't happen on other shows, but I have heard podcast hosts that say, we really need your support, in sponsoring this show just to keep the lights on. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like is like my $2 donation really like gonna take them out if I can't do it? It just felt like a lot of pressure to donate to the show. Maybe that's what they were going for. But Linda, I would highly recommend you just reaching out to your audience in a way that's like, guys, like I'm so excited about what this podcast, the future of it, and maybe you could offer up some ideas of where you see the podcast going in the future. Like we are looking at expanding we need to have a platform to do interviews. Maybe that's one. I know Squadcast is something that I use for my podcast interviews, and it's about $10 a month for the plan that I'm on. I think that there's a bigger plan, but that's all that I need because I don't do a ton of interviews every single month. But you could say, we have expenses for this show, and I just have such a big vision for where I see it going. So if you have found any information that we've given on this show helpful to you, we would so appreciate a listener-sponsored donation. Here's the URL where you can go, and anything that you can contribute would really help us grow this show and reach more people. Now, that sounds totally different than please give us money. Like we are, we're drowning in expenses and everything like that. But I honestly, I think that it would be really cool if you could just give them a dollar amount too, like, and keep it on the lower end, any from $5 to $20, a month, where you could say, hey, like your contribution of $5 a month would so help us in furthering our research or furthering our exploration of ideas whenever it comes to dementia specific stories and finding other people that can contribute to the show. That would be super helpful. I don't know. You kind of put me on the spot, and that was the best that you got from just on the spot, off the cuff. I hope that that's helpful. But if anybody has any other questions about memberships or digital products, creating things that are related to your show, then please reach out to me. If you're watching this on the replay, I recommend just reaching out, because I love talking about monetizing your show before you have a huge audience. Because let's be honest, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And unless you are coming from having a huge platform on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, or a huge email list, this is going to take time. It does not happen overnight. And I want to encourage you to explore ways that you can monetize your show. I don't want you to say, I'll wait till I have 500 listeners and then I'll think about it. Or I have to wait until I get 10,000 downloads and then I'll start exploring ways that I can monetize. No. I want you to start exploring ways now, even if you haven't launched your show. There are some new videos that I'm going to be coming out with soon on YouTube that Buzzsprout has done to help you create affiliates within your own Buzzsprout account that allows you to promote your affiliate links directly within the listening apps on your phone. And it's super cool. I was actually, speaking of like exclusive content, I was giving a tutorial training in the Potty People community today, and they were really excited about it. I'm excited about it because anything to make my life easier, and honestly, it's just like a click of a button now, and I can add an affiliate link to a podcast episode. That gets me excited. And that's what I hope you get excited about, because podcasting isn't going anywhere. It is just gaining momentum, and it is just like chugging along. I'm imagining like the little engine that could like chugga, like it's just going full steam ahead. I'm so excited about the things that are coming up in the future and the things that have just changed ever since I've been doing this, y'all. And it hasn't been forever and ever. So Dingle Days on YouTube says, so my digital product is in production. I run a dog training channel about canine scent work and have about 18 videos left to produce in real time with my dog. When do you begin to promote? So I would start talking about it now. And you don't have to say like an exact date of when it's going to be ready if you don't know that. Now, if you have like a hard deadline, you're like, I have to have this done, let's say by November 1st, right? I know that this is going to be completed by November 1st, then you can start telling people about it and get them excited. There's this concept called the launch runway. I first heard about this from Stu McLaren a few years ago, and I have just been fascinated by this concept ever since. And he was talking about, it was a video that he did with Christy Wright from the Business Boutique. And he was talking about blockbuster movies don't just happen, right? Like they don't just pop up in a movie theater and then they knock it out of the park and they make millions of dollars. Like you start hearing about a blockbuster movie years or 18 months in advance before they ever even hit theaters. And I think about Toy Story 4, right? I have 3 kids and they were so excited whenever we first started seeing the ads pop up about it. And this was way before it was even going to come out. And the buildup was, it just got more intense as time went on, right? We saw the McDonald's toys and we saw the previews in the other movies and we saw ads popping up on all these things. And then finally, like the day came and Toy Story 4 was there. And of course, it was a huge success because people knew about it. They were anticipating it. So I would recommend to you to start your launch runway to tell people about your digital product now while you're creating it. That way, it's ready to go. You don't have to say, okay, oh my gosh, like I've been doing all this production and it's, it's finally ready, but I'm exhausted because it took me forever to create this thing. And now I got to go sell it. Like, start now. Start now. Start telling people about it. Get them excited. So on day one, they're like, heck yeah, like I'm ready to go. I've been looking for the perfect trainer for my canine to do exactly what your training is. Like, start highlighting some of those things now. That way you can find your ideal client, your ideal customer who is looking for you. And you can let them know, hey, like I have this training, I'm putting it together. It's not quite ready yet, but this is the exact date that you'll be able to get it. And here's what it entails. These are all the things that you're going to learn, and really just hyping up the promotion of the value that they're going to receive from having gone through, is it a course, is it a membership, whatever it may be, but having that as part of your program. Start talking about it now. Don't wait until it's done and then you have to just switch, like just make it part of your process right now to start talking about it. But great question. Well, if anybody else has any other questions, don't hesitate to comment. I will be reading all the comments and replying to them. So make sure that you put your questions or anything else you have to say in the comments below this video, wherever you're watching. But I'm excited about talking about monetizing your podcast. We are going to be live here every single week this month, in the month of August. We're going to be talking about monetizing your podcast with digital products and other ways that you can do, like start thinking about this now, even if you haven't even launched a podcast. So that's all I have for you today, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that it was helpful, and I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.